started. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you, Adrian. I appreciate it. You almost said Michael Jackson, so we're kind of related. So I appreciate the time and the opportunity to talk to the attendees today. My name is Mike Johnson. I'm a sales manager here at AvidXchange. I've been with the company going on 5 years. So prior to that, I've had the opportunity to run businesses. I've started businesses. I've worked in startups. I've worked for Fortune 500 companies like Kodak. So I have a lot of practical experience. One thing that always I can relate to what you go through day to day if you're in the finance world today is that I ran a business for 5 years as a general manager. I'd direct to check responsibilities. So I was all too familiar with the vendor calls, the audits, the vendor files, the filing cabinets, all the paper that's associated with accounts payable. And this was back in the 90s, so it's been a while. So it's amazing today. We're going to talk a little bit about the fundamentals of accounts payable automation. First and foremost, it's a hot topic these days for most companies that we're speaking with because there are over 100,000 businesses in the small to mid-market that have yet to automate. This is something that big companies, the Fortune 500s, have taken advantage of since the 1980s. So when you think in terms of where we are today, it's 2018, what's been holding people up? So it's no longer a question of if you'll automate your accounts payable process, it's really a question of when. Because the technology is available, the price points are lower, the use and usability is right up there with it, kind of relates to our consumer experience. So I'm looking forward to our conversation. As Adrian said, if you have any questions, make sure to shout them out, put them in the chat box, and we'll address them as we go through the topic today on AP automation. So let's take a look at some of the key problems that we hear often when we talk to folks. And we usually like to call this kind of a discovery call. It's like our first conversation to learn everything about your accounts payable process. Being one of the senior guys on the team here, I get a lot of new folks joining the company say, hey, Mike, I don't understand this accounts payable process. What does it mean? I said, it's very simple. We buy stuff as a company. We have to pay for it. What happens between those 2 points is very complicated. So we need to understand really what's going on in your current process, what some of your challenges are. So we're always hearing people need to increase their efficiency. So we're looking for ways to be more efficient. This all equates around the theme of time. We want more time. I once recently was speaking to a panel of CFOs and came into the room and I said to them, hey, anything you could use outside of money, what would it be more of? And they all said time without a doubt. So we want to be, focused on giving people back things that they can't get more of, and that's time in your day. They want to be more strategic with their time. They need to grow or scale their businesses. This is the good US of A. We always want to grow, right? We at AvidXchange, when I joined over 4 years ago, we're about 300 employees. Today, in 2018, we're 1,200. So we're growing. Everybody should be growing. So what can we do with technology to help us manage that growth? We want to be more cost effective. That's really the bottom line of every business. What are we paying for? What is our direct spend, our indirect spend? We need to be aware and cognitive of what's going into and affecting our bottom line. We need to improve internal controls. The landscape, by the way, is littered with tremendous stories on fraud. It's sad. It's a reality. When I talk to businesses, more often than not, they have been frauded. It's mostly by trusted employees or sneaky vendors. There's some great stories on the internet if you want to Google them, where people have actually walked away with millions of dollars. Not walked away because they always get caught, by the way. But once it's out of your bank, it's hard to get it back in. So these are some of the key problems we see. And really, when we talk to folks in the finance role, whether it's the CFO, the controller, the AP manager, we're really looking at, what kind of pain is involved in their process. And when we think of things in accounts payable, it's 2018, but we see a lot of paper, right? Fairly often I ask people, how do you get invoices today? They say, hey, get them via mail and email. I said, what do you do with the email? We print them out, because we need to route them around for approval. So there's an overwhelming amount of paper in our process, and paper takes time. It takes time to move around, takes time for people to review. They all equates to wasted time that's being spent in this process. The AP business processes are not well documented or followed. Just signed up a new client in Connecticut last month. They have a woman who's a delightful woman, 35 years within the company, has been handling AP for a long, long time. Guess where all that knowledge is on the process? It's in Cheryl's head, not on a piece of paper. So what happens when Cheryl gets ready for retirement? What are they going to do? Staff is overworked and attrition at risk. We're now in a new millennial generation where kids coming out of school today, I have a couple that graduated in the last several years. They want to be the CFO. They don't want to be the AP specialist. So they're looking to accelerate their career path. and getting stuck in these positions where they're using old processes instead of using new technology is leaving them at risk for leaving the organization. Your current approval process can take weeks. That's pretty typical, that sometimes an invoice comes in, it can take up to a month to get it through. If you're routing it out to people in the organization, whether you're using overnight couriers or FedEx or email, you're getting these things out, and it's hard to maintain visibility and expenses and its impact on your cash flow. What's going in and what's coming out. If it's on paper, it's hard to find it. So what are the goals for your organization? So we want to challenge you to think in things of what are you really trying to do? It could be the magic wand. If you're looking at your organization, this is one of the last departments that we've seen technology really migrate into. Because look, we've been around as a company since 2000, 18 years, and there's hundreds of thousands of businesses that have yet to automate. Why? This is one of those areas that they have yet to address, but it's becoming more relevant and more important today as we look at migrating from what we call our consumer experience to our business experience, right? We were chatting before we got on this webinar, and a lot of people today coming out of school are really comfortable with social media. They live on their phones. Even I, as an older guy, live on my phone too. I go online, I pay bills, I have automatic debits. When a guy comes to do service on my furnace in the winter and he says he's done, and I say, send me a bill, and he says, write me a check, I almost panic trying to figure out where that checkbook is. But when we come to work, we do the complete opposite of what we do in our consumer world. So all that experience is now permeating the workforce, making this a more important technology to address in your company and how it can impact your business. So what are your goals for your organization? What does AP and payment automation look like? So let's take a look at what is AvidXchange. We're a cloud, like Acumatica, we're in the cloud. So it's a SaaS solution. So we're utilizing our software, and we're providing a high level of service. We integrate well with Acumatica. We have an API connection. So what we're doing is streamlining the accounts payable process all the way from invoice or PO, if required, to invoice to payments, wrapping it all up under one cloud-based automation process. The goal is to eliminate some of the tedious tasks like opening mail, doing data entry into the accounting system like Acumatica. Again, all these things I'm mentioning reference and save time. Paper invoices and checks all together to create more time for strategic tasks. We're looking at saving perhaps between 40 and 60% of somebody's time in a traditional process when they migrate to an automated process now available to them to focus on strategic tasks that are going to help the business grow. So what does it look like after automation? So this is kind of our eye chart around the process as our clients have explained to us over 18 years of selling this technology to them. You look at all the steps. Invoices come in, opening mail, maybe a purchase order is involved, routing it out for people for approval, whether it's attaching to an email or sending it out through the mail or overnight through FedEx. Somebody's coding it, somebody's approving it. How does that happen? Somebody's doing the budgeting, doing the data entry into the accounting system, posting to the GL, and then processing it, maybe perhaps a paper check. And that's right, we do find a lot of people are still producing paper checks on the end of this AP process. And then at the end, we're still, well, I fairly hear, hey, what happens with all this stuff? Well, we put it in filing cabinets. So we're back to filing cabinets, vendor folders, looking for information. So research is a manual process. Everything you see here with our logo is grayed out, is replaced by our software and services. So we're talking about things that, your AP process, all these steps are really down to 3. Coding, which you can help automate, by the way. We've got technology that can help save some time there. The approval process, which is simply the click of a button, and then there's no data entry into the accounting system, Acumatica, and then it's posted to GL. And from there, you can facilitate payments through our payment automation technology that gives you the ability to have us work with you to facilitate payments to your vendors the way they want to be paid. And because it starts in the cloud, it's in the cloud, it's stored there. So access to it for research possibilities, so it's limitless, 24/7, and it's built for mobile, by the way. We constrain our device, constrain our application to fit any mobile device that you're working on. So what are some of the benefits? We talk about, some of the hard costs, maybe eliminating paper invoices and checks, the costs associated with printing, mailing, signing checks, paper envelopes, stamps, reduces manual labor associated with the cost of time being spent walking and handing out invoices or doing data entry. It shortens the approval time. Once it's in a system like this, the visibility to this is quickly enhanced because people are simply notified that they have invoices waiting for them. They're not waiting for somebody to send them an email. The system works for them. So envision yourself coming to work one day, instead of walking into a stack of paper, before you enter the building, your phone vibrates and you've got invoices waiting for your approval. You can log into your portal. We build your portal. It is your portal. You control who has access, what they can see, and what they can do. You look at those invoices. You can comment. You can attach things to it, and you can approve it simply by hitting a button, and it's routed on to other people in the organization without having to push it, notify anybody. And the real benefit of this is going to build its own robust audit trail, so you know exactly when it came in, who touched it, what they did with it, and how long they had it. So these are some of the benefits. Also improving visibility. It's a common theme that we hear amongst finance professionals. They want to know where things are. They want to have control, efficiencies, visibility, repeating these themes constantly to us that these are things that are important to their business. And they're looking at the bottom line is reduce the risk of fraudulent activity around their checks. It is one of the most frauded document in business today, and that's a paper check. People get their hands on it, they can manipulate it, they can change the signature line. We found that, we've uncovered it, and helped our clients eliminate the exposure to fraud. It eliminates duplicate payments. You know, hey, did we pay that bill on time? When did we pay it? If it's in a system of record as opposed to in a filing cabinet, it's easy to track this stuff. So what are the operational impacts? We're talking about approval times. You know, the average, according to some industry studies, it takes about 12 days to process an invoice before automation. In an automated system, you're talking about 3.5 days, 3.5 days to get an invoice in, get it through a process, get it approved and back into your accounting system, and then be able to say, hey, well, let's pay the vendor. So you look at the significant time, almost 9 days are being saved throughout the month, where your AP staff could be focused on things like process control, audits. They could be working with vendors on better discounts. There's lots of things, financial planning and analysis, reporting, all these things that they can be doing outside of moving paper through their system. What we want to be cognizant of is that we work in a lean and mean society, right? In business today, it's hard to find people, without a doubt, and it's hard to keep people. So automation doesn't mean eliminating team members. It allows finance teams to work smarter and more strategically. And we were looking at a society, I'm on the other end of that, the happy rainbow, where I'm getting closer to retirement. You start thinking about, you know, all the baby boomers that are coming out of the workforce and all the young people that are coming in. The numbers don't match up. There's going to be a shortage of employees that's out there, and so businesses are dealing with this. So in today, in the last 20 years, any company I've worked for, we've always worked leaner and smarter. We're not hiring as frequently as we used to. People are now multitasking. So it's not leveraging this technology for the business is not about eliminating team members. It's about really empowering them. And you can see the lights go off with the folks when we talk to their teams, their AP teams, when they realize they can use technology as opposed to paper. It's tough to make change. We understand that, and I certainly appreciate it. Having been in business for over 30 years, that it's not easy to do that. But once people start rolling down this, they constantly come back to it and say, I can never imagine not automating it, automating this process, because it saves so much time and effort. So let's take a look at some of the costs that are associated with it. When you look at your AP process, you know, all the steps that go into opening mail, maybe photocopying. This woman I mentioned down in Connecticut, she has a lovely file system of automation. She gets an invoice in, makes a copy of it, puts it in a folder, then sends the one out for approval. Then when they come back in, that's how she does her matching. There's data entry. This poor person sometimes during the month end or their periods throughout the month, because of the unanticipated cycle or amount of data that comes in or approved invoices, she ends up spending hours, late hours into the night doing data entry and getting everything done. The approval process, invoice approval processing, when you look at that, a lot of times I've seen it in demos where folks have said, hey, I'm going to send you some of my invoices. They're stamped, they're initial, they're marked, and it's like, you know, people have touched it. You can tell how much time, and then putting it into a filing cabinet. And hopefully, because I got these calls when I was running my business, hey, can you check on a payment? And I'd have to go for that invoice, and I'd go into the vendor folder, and hopefully it was in order, and everything was attached to it, and I wasn't having to go back to one of the customer service or sales folks' desks to see if I could find that invoice. And that really equates to really answering calls from vendors on, you know, hey, where did this, you know, we've all gotten those calls. Hey, when are you going to pay that invoice? And you're like, hey, I don't even know we have that invoice. So answering questions about those missing off invoices and the potential cost of duplicating payments. I've seen that in my business. We did it a couple times. We thought we had paid it, and we just paid it again, and then the vendor calls and says, "Hey, thanks for the double payment." So there's lots of efficiency you can be gained by that. But how much does it cost? According to studies by Aberdeen Group, PayStream Advisors, you're looking about an average cost to process an invoice about $14.89, so roughly around $15 when you think of the labor, the time associated, the storage, all those things factor into that $15 per invoice. With an automated process, you're looking at less than $7 per invoice. Payments, when you think in terms of, hey, we're going to process a check, and by the way, 50% or so of all B2B payments, us paying our vendors, are still done on physical paper checks. That's amazing when you think about the technologies out there, because we here in the United States, by the way, are fairly laggards when it comes to automation and payment processing. Many companies don't even know what a check is. You know, if you've ever had a kid to go across the ocean for a semester abroad, try sending them a check to pay for things. A bank over there is going to go, what is that? So you talk about the cost of that when you think of the paper, the envelope, the stamp, the labor, the toner, all those things go and factor into about $7.15. Automating the process that reduces about $3. So your all-in cost, if you're manual, most people don't know this, is about $22 per invoice relative to what the cost is. It could be, when you automate the process, as low as $10 or even less when you factor in some of the time and the efficiencies that are gained. So we're talking about really reducing payment processing costs by roughly about 60%. So there is an ROI. Again, you know, it's kind of a soft ROI, because remember, go back to the slide we previously showed. We're not eliminating bodies. We're going to repurpose them. We're going to make them more efficient. So we're not really reducing salary, but we're making our organization more efficient, and we are taking out some of the costs that are associated with paper, stamps, and envelopes, et cetera. So when you look at the return on investments, obviously the more invoices you process, if you look up the left side of this chart, from 1,000 to 8,000 invoices on a monthly or annual basis, your cost may be about $7,500. Automating that process is going to be about, you know, a little bit more than, you know, half less expensive at $3,500. And then paper check processing, you really get a really good, strong ROI, or return on the investment there, reducing the cost from you know, overall about $2,100 a year down to $900. So, I mean, on a monthly basis. So it's got a pretty significant impact. We do have ROI tools that we can bring to the table. Folks are looking at trying to factor, hey, what will be my savings? We look at about the average time that somebody spends on an invoice at about 3 minutes, you know, a processing time, handling, and then working on that. So you're talking about a savings, you know, potential upside of about $5,000 per month back into the company. And as always, we like to talk about our clients. Without our clients, we'd be nowhere. We've got about 8,000 clients. We've grown both organically and through acquisitions over the last several years. In my 4+ year tenure here, we've acquired 3 companies. We've grown from 12 to 1,200 employees and over 8,000 clients. And we integrate with countless accounting systems. Acumatica is one that we started with over 2 years ago, and I have a number of Acumatica clients that are utilizing us. So it's really about the time savings, according to this Senior Director of Finance at Families USA Foundation. Really, so many other tasks that need to be done in our department. So freeing up 4 hours a week for your AP person really gives a lot of time back to the organization to look at other things that could help improve the cash flow of the business. So let's take a quick look in our time remaining. Let's take a look at how this all works. We're just going to give you kind of a high-level couple of screenshots just to show you what the application looks like. We'd welcome an opportunity if you want to see a demo, want to do a deeper dive, have a conversation about whether or not this is the right thing for you and the right time for your organization or your company to look at. But let's take a look at how it all begins. So how do we get invoices in? So it's a full service. What that means is no more need to receive invoices at your company. So we collaborate with you a couple of weeks before you go live on our solution. Promote this out to your vendors. Hey, we've automated our process. If you're going to mail them, we know if vendors still mail them. Here's our new PO box. If you're going to mail them, here's our email address. And then we receive those invoices. We get about 80% adoption from vendors in month 1. The remaining 20% or so roll in month 2 and 3. And then the third option there is UScan, because this often happens, right? Somebody walks in today and says, hey, I bought this. Here's my invoice. How do you get it into your portal? You simply can throw it on a copier, create a PDF and drop it in, or take a picture through the mobile app and then download it to your portal. So it's available there. We're going to scan it. We're going to index it. We're going to provide some fraud protection here. We're going to capture duplicate invoices or invoices from vendors that are net new to Acumatica. We're going to alert your finance team to these things so they can manage them early on in the process, not be blindsided by it. Typically, I find that most companies, the AP person who's been receiving the invoices, whether emailed or mailed today in the traditional world, will be that kind of traffic person in the automated world. So they'll be the first wave of, hey, they get an alert, they can schedule these throughout the day, and they can log in, see the invoices, hit the approve button, or route them out automatically to people in the organization for approval. And one of the things that we all know, right, the dirty little secret is we all got them in our organization. Those are laggards. Those are folks that take forever to approve things, and we have to go stare at them. Well, this system can actually set up an escalation path and an alert path, so that our solution allows you to manage those people in the organization that aren't compliant with, hey, we need to get that invoice approved, by reminding them and then escalating it to their boss when they don't do it in a timely fashion. So then we present the invoices. This is your portal. We branded for you. You'd log in by your username and password. We typically work with your staff to train the trainer. So somebody on your site becomes kind of the portal administrator to help new folks. It's very intuitive to set people up. We work in a role in the rule. The role is typically your job, controller, CFO, AP person. The rule is what governs you. Things like I can approve invoices, I can code them, I can restrict access, I can set up conditions so people, under a certain dollar amount, over a certain dollar amount will be alerted. If it's under, they don't get alerts. So I log into the portal. Really, I'm branded with what's in my queue for today. So it lists the invoices that are waiting for me. If I wanted to batch approve these, I could just select all button and just approve them. They would go out to people in the organization for the approval process. You can see on the left, the functionality that we bring here. We have orders, which is our requisition PO process up at the top. Invoice is what we're looking at. We actually have the pay solution. These are 3 modules, by the way, of 5 that we offer in the AP processing today. That most of our clients take advantage of. About 85% of our clients are leveraging us for requisition, or PO orders, invoice, and then payments. With the inbox, that's that self-service scan process, and then the admin, and then resources to docs that help. So I can see the invoices that are waiting for me. I can act on them. So I can see, invoices that if I created a PO or purchase order, in AvidXchange, I can see the PO that's highlighted. You can see number 72 there. So what we're doing is linking, and we're enforcing compliance early on in the process. You have people that want to spend your hard-earned money, make them fill out a requisition, complete that form, electronically submit it for approval. Our system can generate a purchase order number. You could start the sequence. It could be sent directly to the vendor or sent to you to send to the vendor. And then when that corresponding invoice comes in, we flip that information. So now that PO and invoice is invoice from ABM Janitorial Northeast is now connected to the originating purchase order. So all that information is right in front of you. How convenient, how easy. We're not in a paper form anymore. We're looking at it on screen. You can see I can approve the invoice. I can skip, create a report, or go on to other tasks. The workflow allows me at this tab within this invoice to see exactly where it is at a moment's notice. So I can see the blue highlight, it says it's pending. So it came in, it's in step 1. We were working a sequence logic, 1, 2, 3, 4. So steps here could be many more if you've got a deeper, more robust requirement around approval and people. There could be 1 or multiple people actually in a step. So you can occupy that. You can see the rule here. It's review, code, and approve versus review and approve that these other folks have. So we don't want all the people to be able to code invoices, right? Finance have taught me over years, we don't want them messing it up. So all we do is we want them to review and approve it. So I have all this functionality right in front of me. I can attach things. You can see the attachment button. I can comment. So I can really collaborate, not only internally, say, hey, Mike, I got a question about this invoice. Can you take a look at it and respond to me? But I also can collaborate with my vendors. This allows me to email vendors saying, hey, Tom, call me. The pricing looks different than what we agreed to in the purchase order, and I've got a discrepancy here, so I need to know. And the advantage of that is it's now going to aggregate everything into one repository. This is the audit trail. We call it history. So this is exactly the history that people are looking for. From the moment it came in, who touched it, how long they had it, what comments were, what the attachments were, how it was coded, and this is all reportable. we can aggregate this content into a summary report as an ad hoc report where you can just say, show me the image, the coding, the header section, the history, any payment detail. I can print that out as a PDF. And we have clients, by the way, that have granted their auditors read-only access, so they can actually log in and pull this data without coming into their conference room. So, and then we have, we're kind of backing up here, but we're looking at the order. So this is just a glimpse into our requisition PO. So folks can fill out it and requisition, submit it for approval. Once it's approved, we generate the purchase order. So that's my time today. We covered a lot of stuff. As Adrian said, this is being recorded. You got a copy of the presentation in case you want to do some further research. And remember, I said it's not if you'll automate, it's just when, because the time is coming. You'll find your reason for automation. So I appreciate it today. So I want to open the floor to any questions folks may have out there regarding AP automation.
Great. Thank you, Michael, for walking us through that presentation. And we actually did have a few questions come in.